say anything else, I want to thank you all truly for being here this morning, for always showing up as business leaders, as neighbors and friends. In times of uncertainty and sorrow, we really rely on those who show up. And this week, amid difficult news, both here at home and globally, your presence truly matters. Community matters, leadership matters, and that is each one of you, and I'm honored to be among you. On behalf of Mayor Sutcliffe, the Ottawa Board of Trade, and the Ottawa Business Journal, welcome to the first Mayor's Breakfast of 2026. Now, we ended last year with a bit of a bang, hosting the Prime Minister and 1,100 of our closest friends, with meaningful announcements and every reason to be confident that the importance of the National Capital Region is well understood. The momentum continues with today's turnout as another powerful signal of our shared commitment to collaboration, to civic leadership, and to shaping Ottawa's future together. I bring regrets today from our co-producer, Michael Curran, the president and publisher of the Ottawa Business Journal, who was away at conference, and I'll just mention, in a sunny destination. No hard feelings, but I know he's thinking of us today. Thank you to the team here at City Hall for hosting us so well as always. We are thrilled to be gathered here in the heart of our downtown and acknowledge that we meet on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We honor their enduring stewardship of this land and recognize the contributions of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples to our shared community. We are honored this morning to be joined by the Honourable Jenna Suds, the Honourable Marie-France Lalonde, Mayor Maude Marquis-Bissonnette, there you are, Councillors David Hill, Marty Carr, Kathy Curry, and I saw Alan Hubley, welcome, and Councillor Kitts. Good morning, Catherine. Thank you for the shout out there. And welcome to Scott Phelan, Deputy Chief of Staff for the Office of the Premier. Thank you all for your service and for your leadership. To our OBOT members, ambassadors, pillar partners, and board members, thank you. You are the voice of business in this region and the reason Ottawa continues to compete and win. And I wanted to pay a special welcome to Steve Willis, who's joining us here from the board today. And finally, a warm welcome to today's special guest, General Rick Hillier. Welcome. It's been an exciting week in Ottawa. Yes. All right. That was the first of what I expect to be 3 or 4 rounds of applause for the General, so I hope you enjoyed it. It's been an exciting week here in Ottawa and in Gatineau, in our business community. We successfully rolled out Winterlude. Did everybody have a chance to enjoy Winterlude this year? Yes? Michael Crockett did. Very good. And I believe we probably officially completed our agreement with the weather gods. So after tomorrow, we can start advocating for no snow. Is that all right? Okay. Monday, okay, all right. Many of you also have participated in the community consultations with Alto following the announcement of high-speed rail between Ottawa and Montreal, so thank you. Infrastructure of that scale really signals confidence in our region's future. We're thrilled with the announcement that in Cyber, the premier international cyber security conference will be hosted in Ottawa this year. So congratulations to Invest Ottawa and Ottawa Tourism and everyone who worked on that to secure it. I encourage all of you to promote Ottawa in your networks as a destination for conferences and investment, of course, especially as our roster of direct flights continues to expand. I believe the Think Ottawa Gala was just last night, so we want to say thank you to all those companies who were recognized for inviting their global networks to Ottawa. Congratulations. This week also marked the groundbreaking of Junction Central by Colonnade Bridgeport. This transit-oriented mixed-use development will deliver 500 new homes in its first phase and 1,200 at full build-out. And it is a beautiful example of smart city building. Thank you to the CEO, Hugh Gorman, and his partners for investing in Ottawa's future. We are especially pleased with yesterday's announcement that the Ontario government has committed new funding and policy measures to stabilize and leverage the post-secondary education system. I want to say congratulations and thank you to our anchor institutions, Algonquin College, La Cité, Carleton University, and the University of Ottawa for your coordinated and continued advocacy and for the work that you do every day to drive research, talent, and commercialization in our region. Finally, there has been a significant public discussion around the federal government decision to increase in-office presence. As an anchor employer in Canada's capital, the federal government plays an outsized role in our regional economy. It is for that reason that the Board of Trade has consistently called for a clear and well-executed workforce strategy so that businesses and economic stakeholders can plan with certainty. With additional foot traffic in our downtown, which is the cultural hub and economic driver of our region, it will be positive, of course. Increased presence strengthens vibrancy, but to be clear, workforce policy alone does not define our downtown's future. Along with our downtown champions and through the Downtown Action Agenda, we are advancing a broader strategy, one focused on diversification, mixed-use development, cultural investment, entrepreneurship, and residential growth, to build a downtown that is more resilient and future-ready. We will highlight many of these priorities at the upcoming Downtown Ottawa Forum alongside Mayor Sutcliffe and business leaders across the region, and we hope you will join us. But for today, it's all about defense. Last fall, under the leadership of Invest Ottawa and in partnership with the cities of Ottawa and Gatineau, we launched a defense strategy for Canada's capital region. That strategy recognizes something fundamental. Defense is about procurement, yes, but also about innovation, commercialization, talent, and economic diversification. Our region is uniquely positioned at the intersection of government, research institutions, cybersecurity expertise, advanced technology, and trusted global relationships. Since the launch, significant work has continued, including coordinated advocacy to position the National Capital Region as the headquarters for the Defence, Security and Resilience Bank. That effort reflects our ambition to leverage our strengths in service of both regional prosperity and the national agenda. The foundation of the strategy is the creation of the Ottawa-Gatineau Task Force, and at the last breakfast, Mayor Sutcliffe announced our Honourary Chair, General Hillier, who has led through some of Canada's most defining moments of modern military. And we are thrilled to have him here with us today. So, do you want to applause for him? Yeah. Now, I would like to begin by recognizing the outstanding organizations that make the Mayor's Breakfast possible. Our leading sponsor, Hydro Ottawa, our presenting sponsor, Edelman, RBC, Commissionaires Ottawa, the Westin Ottawa, Algonquin College, Enbridge, Fortinet, the Ottawa Senators Hockey Club, our AV sponsor, Ottawa Print Services, our speaker sponsor, Eamon Harden, our coffee sponsor, Capital Office Interiors, our breakfast sponsor, Collège La Cité, and our global sponsor, Oakwood and the Casino Lac Limi. Could we show sincere appreciation for their generous support? It is now my pleasure to welcome our presenting sponsor from Edelman, Darcy Walsh, General Manager for the Ottawa Office and President of Public and Government Affairs for Canada. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Another year of the Mayor's Breakfast, and what will be a big year, and I'm sure it's okay if we wish you all, Mr. Mayor, the best of luck in the fall for 2026 and get you right back here. Also to Sam and Owen for your Mayor's initiative on 200 acts of kindness. I think you all have your little placards on your seats, so have a look at that if you could. Also, General Hillier, one of our colleagues, General Boyle, wishes his best from some sunny spot on a boat and says hello. Yes, well, he said you should come, so. But also, you know, it is important to know that what we're facing geopolitically, and our trust barometer was launched a couple weeks ago at the Davos. It sort of fell short to some guy's speech, but it's all the copies are at the back for you to take and have a look at. But also, you know, it is important anytime you get to have an opportunity and a person in front of General Hillier is to say thank you for your over 35 years of service, but also your service well beyond in serving the rollout of COVID vaccine for Ontario. And I think one of my favorite quotes of yours as it relates to leadership and optimism is, optimism can be more powerful than a battery of artillery, a squadron of tanks. It can be contagious, and it's necessary for being a leader. So thank you. Su-Ling.
Thank you, Darcy. Well said. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mayor Mark Sutcliffe.
Thank you, Su-Ling. Good morning, everyone. Great to have you all here. Great to see such a terrific turnout. I think there are still a few seats for the people who are in the back, so please come forward. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci à vous être rejoints à nous ce matin. C'est toujours un plaisir de vous accueillir au déjeuner du maire. Before I introduce our guest today, I just wanted to give a quick update on a couple of things. As you know, as everyone knows, this has been a very, very challenging time in the world and also right here in Ottawa. And in the past year, unfortunately, there have been incidents of hatred and racism and violence in our community, and I know that's been troubling for all the residents of Ottawa. Yesterday at City Hall, we held a symposium called City of Kindness. We brought together leaders from throughout the community to talk about how we build a city that is kinder and more inclusive. And our keynote speaker, Dr. Wisdom Teddy of Carleton University, talked about how we need to work on the soul of our city. It was a very inspiring day, very powerful day, and we committed yesterday to moving forward on a number of different initiatives to truly build a city of kindness. And many of us yesterday signed the Kindness Pledge, and you can see it on the board that's over there. So I want to invite all of you to add your signature to that if you want to join us in this mission of building a city of kindness. Je vous invite à ajouter votre signature si vous désirez participer à cette mission. As Ottawa celebrates our 200th birthday this year, I can't think of a better initiative, a better legacy than to make our city kinder and to work together against hatred and racism in all its forms. So I encourage you to join us. And one way to do that is to come up with one simple act of kindness and share it with us using the QR code that is on the card that was on your chair. Each day we're going to highlight a new act of kindness on my social media channels, and we'll keep the momentum going. And there are many other things that are happening in our city right now, of course, beyond just the City of Kindness event yesterday. It's Black History Month. We're honoring some of our heroes and trailblazers. On a fait encore des progrès dans notre engagement à mettre fin à l'itinérance chez les jeunes d'ici 2030. We've made some more progress on our pledge to end youth homelessness by 2030. We've raised some more money towards that goal, which is very exciting. You may have seen Ottawa was ranked as the top major city in the Globe and Mail's report on quality of life. We were ranked number 1. Sorry, Maude. Sorry, Maude. Gatineau did really well, too. I'm not used to bragging about that when there's another mayor sitting right here. But we were number 1. I don't feel bad about bragging about it. And hey, we're also working hard to get season 2 of Heated Rivalry to be filmed here in Ottawa, which is very exciting. And of course, we've been cheering on our Olympians. We won some medals yesterday. The men's and women's hockey teams both won yesterday, so that's very exciting. And Ottawa's own Rachel Holman and her rink are doing very well in the curling. But today, we're going to focus on the historic opportunity that we have before us right now, the historic opportunity for Ottawa to be a leader in defense innovation. And I do want to welcome and acknowledge this morning my friend and colleague Maude Marquis-Bissonnette, the Mayor of Gatineau. Bienvenue. Merci d'être un partenaire super. Maude has been a terrific partner. She and I agree that while we are representing two different cities in two different provinces, we are one economic region in Ottawa-Gatineau, one economic region. Nous formons une seule région économique. Ce qui est bon pour Gatineau est bon pour Ottawa. What is good for Gatineau is good for Ottawa. What's good for Ottawa is good for Gatineau. So we are working closely together to promote our region as Canada's defense innovation hub. We have more than 300 defense technology companies in this region. We have our great post-secondary institutions. We're very proud of them, and the ones in Ontario yesterday just got a whole bunch more money from the provincial government, which is very, very exciting. They worked hard to achieve that. Thank you to Scott Phelan from the Premier's office for all of his advocacy on that. We have terrific talent in our region, and this morning we are taking the next step together. Today we are officially launching our Defence Innovation Task Force. This task force will help us drive investment, stimulate economic growth, and create new defense capabilities for our region and for our country. Maude and I will co-chair the task force together alongside our Honourary Chair, General Rick Hillier, our guest this morning. This task force brings together 33 leaders, defense decision makers, investors, innovators, industry executives, veterans, diplomats, economic development partners, and policy experts from both sides of the river. They will work with us to operationalize our key defense innovation priorities, to mobilize public and private resources, to ensure that strategy becomes action. Our goal is to unlock $3 billion in new activity and investment for our local economy. Il s'agit d'une opportunité considérable pour notre région. This is a huge opportunity for our region, and we are ready to capitalize on it. And I'm excited to talk more about that and about other topics with our guest this morning. It truly is an honor to welcome a Canadian hero, retired General Rick Hillier. General Hillier has served Canada with distinction, leading troops on the ground and serving as the chief of our defense staff. General Hillier led one of the most significant periods of rebuilding and modernization for the Canadian Armed Forces, and at the same time, he did a great deal to restore pride in our military. Since retiring, General Hillier has continued to serve, advising Canadian companies, strengthening our defense sector, and championing strong leadership across the country. He lives here in Ottawa with his wife Joyce, although he hasn't spent as much time here this month as he does in, July and August, understandably. But he's never stopped looking for ways to help Canada succeed, and I'm grateful that he has agreed to serve as the Honourary Chair of our National Defence Innovation Hub Task Force, and I'm proud to call him a partner in this important work. Please join me in welcoming this morning General Rick Hillier.
Hey, good morning, folks.
Welcome, sir. And I'll just point out, I'm teasing you a little bit because this is your first day in Ottawa. This is your first few hours in Ottawa this month. You just arrived, and we appreciate you making this work. I reached out to the General a few weeks ago and asked him if he would be at the breakfast, and he said, he's not going to be spending a lot of time in Ottawa in February. Because of in part because of your travels, your personal travels, but also because of some work commitments. But we found a way to make it work for you to fly into Ottawa, do this breakfast, be part of our announcement today, and then get back on your way to some other events that you have to do. So I'm very grateful that you were able to make it work, and I apologize that you're going to have 1 or 2 cold days in the middle of your otherwise warm month of February.
Hey, Mayor, thanks very much for the invitation to be here and the welcome, and thanks, folks. I mean, half of you are me, right? Half of you are veterans out there or work with the military as civilians, and I'm delighted to do it. I got here 5 hours ago from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, so if I fall off the stage halfway through our chat, you'll understand why here, right? And so, yeah, delighted to be here. And Mayor Sutcliffe interviewed me before, right? Back in his previous life, back in my previous life. In fact, multiple times. He was a bit of a dick, actually, at the time, but, you know, not all the time, not all the time. He's a good guy. So I wanted to do him because I really think a lot about our mayor. I really, really do. And I wanted to throw my shoulder here behind Ottawa and the region and some of the things we're doing. And I may say some things you might not agree with, you might not like, you might detest, but...
You've already done that.
No, they all agreed with it. You see, they cheered. Look, first of all, I will say, Mayor, I don't support any specific political stripe. I'm a Canadian. And my God, I love our country. Nothing made me prouder than wearing that red and white flag on my left shoulder, and nothing made me prouder than seeing that big Canadian flag on the tail boom of one of our aircraft flown by those awesome pilots in the Royal Canadian Air Force who would come to take you home from mission or take you into mission to do things. And so I'm not conservative, I'm not liberal, you know, and I say things, I really try to work for Canada. My dad was the same way. My dad voted conservative, I think, all of his life. The last 2 or 3 elections, he voted liberal. I'm not sure he would have done that if he had still been alive, but you know, that's the way it is, right? So, you didn't get that one, did you? Anyhow, I'm here, Mark.
All right.
I'm delighted to be here.
I'm grateful that you are here. I did prepare some questions, but I think I'm going to put those aside and ask you some tougher ones now. Go back to our previous conversations.
Sure.
Yeah. No, listen, before we have a lot to talk about regarding the work that is ahead of us, but I wanted to talk about your life and career. You're from Newfoundland, and I read that you grew up in a family as the only son among 6 children. So you had 5 sisters growing up. Yeah. So tell me about your early life in Newfoundland with your family, and what prompted you to choose to serve in the Canadian Armed Forces?
Well, you know, it was probably stereotypical Newfoundland life. My mom worked at home, and she kept the family together. My dad worked wherever he could find work, which is what that generation did. Yes, I was in that family of 5 girls and me. 4 of them are older than me. 1 is much younger. Back in those days, it was the change of life baby, they used to call it, right? And that's what it was, my younger sister. And I tried to join the Army when I was 9 years old. And the reason I tried to join was I wanted to join any organization that wore men's clothing, because I was tired of wearing those hand-me-downs from those 5 sisters. It's all funny now when I think about it, but you defend that pink number on the way home from school when you're 10 years old. Not quite as funny. It was a wonderful... We had my dad believed in family, my mom believed in education, we were loved, we were supported in every way, and we remained independent in thought and action by watching and emulating them. My dad died 30 years ago. I think of him every single day. My mom died 10 years ago. She was 88 years old, minus a little bit. Until about a month before she died, she was an Energizer bunny. She just drove everything, and I kind of have her DNA, so, you know, I have a lot of energy. My wife says, you're like a shark, you know, if you stop swimming, you'll drown. And so I keep going, and that's from my family. That's from my DNA. That's from the love, and we try to emulate, we try to replicate that with our family and just bring as much love as we can. I've been surrounded by women, so I got to look out here and say that this is true. Strong women. My mom, my wife used to say, your mom should have been a sergeant major in the Army. It would have sorted out that shit, right? She would have done that. She was an educator. She was a strong mom. My 5 sisters, you know, 2 of them are nurses, 3 of them were educators. They are strong women. My wife was an educator. She's a strong woman. She kept our family together through numerous deployments and separations and moves and everything else. 17 moves in my military career. You imagine that, right? We've got a little thing at home with a rope on it and little hearts. It's a house, and it says, home is where the Army sends you. And we have 17 of them, and we have 2 more. And the last one is Fort Hood, Texas, where we were posted. My wife refuses to put Ottawa on the second to last one until we're sure that this is going to be our last posting. We've been here now for 27 years here. But my wife is an incredibly strong lady, and she and I celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. It's pretty incredible, right? So now I've got her trained up and ready to go. I'm not gonna move her on. And then we got 2 daughters. We had 2 sons ourselves. We got 2 incredibly strong daughters-in-law who have no reverse on them. And then our youngest son, Stephen, many of you will know from CADSI, he and his wife have 2 little girls who are incredibly independent, strong, thinking little girls who take a back seat to nobody. So my entire life has been shaped by being around strong women.
Yeah, mine as well. I'm an only son. I had a sister. My mother had 5 sisters, no brothers. My dad had 3 sisters, no brothers. So all my life I've been surrounded by strong women. Is it true you didn't get into the Canadian Armed Forces the first couple times you tried? Is that right?
Yeah, first time, and I didn't get in because they didn't want anybody from Newfoundland that year for whatever reason. I can't imagine that, but there you go. So I reapplied immediately, and I applied to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police at the same time. It was the only time in history our recruiting system worked faster than anybody else's, and so I got a response first, and I joined, and of course went into the regular officer training program at Memorial University where I already was. And remember, so I'm dating myself, I'll do it anyhow. In Newfoundland, when I came in through high school, grade 11 was the last year, right? We knew everything by the time we got to grade 11. We didn't need grade 12 or OAC, right? We knew all that shit then. And so you left high school when you were 16 years old, right? My wife left high school at a year university, 3 months of teacher's college, and was teaching before she was 18. So that tells you how quickly you spin into something. So you go off to university and do that kind of thing, and it's so quick that you're into. As 19 years old, I was a platoon commander in Petawawa, with my university degree, green behind the ears, thinking I knew everything, and quickly got disabused of exactly that. In other words, I got mentored by a lot of pretty incredible officers and NCOs, and I got to see examples of awesome leadership. But even more important in some ways, I got to see horrible examples of poor leadership. And my point to you would be this: don't dismiss what you can learn from bad leaders. And I would tell you 60% of my leadership was shaped on, I'll never do that. I'll never treat people like that. I would never have those kinds of morals or ethics. And I would simply say, don't dismiss bad leaders, because you do see a lot of them around, and you got to learn from them and just make yourself that better leader while you go on and provide a good example for others.
And you've had an opportunity to share your experiences, your leadership advice to large groups and in one-on-one conversations with people. Are there particular lessons that you impart from your long career in leadership? Are there ones that are important to you?
Yeah, and there are a lot. So I won't give you a leadership talk here, a leadership presentation, but I just leave one. Leadership is all about people. And if you forget that, you're going to fail. And if you think it's about the office or the rank or the appointment or the perks that go with it or the increase in salary, you're going to fail. If you don't remember that the people that look to you for leadership are the ones who are going to cause you to be hugely successful or cause you to fail disastrously, if you don't remember that and make sure that you're shaping them all to be hugely successful, then you are going to fail as a leader. And in the military, it's not command in the military. If I didn't lead those troops, hey, in the military, we have this harsh response to that. If somebody doesn't like what you're doing because you're being an idiot about it, they'll stick a grenade in the back of your pants and pull the pin, and guess where you will be then. So focus on people, inspire them from your first contact with them. If they're coming to join your organization, make sure that if there's an interim period of time, reach out to them. And say, hey, we know you got an application in. We want to get you in as soon as we can. We're going to get through it. And meanwhile, how you doing? And like take a phone call to somebody and say, we want you back in. And when people come that first day, people are always insecure. Go wrap your arm around them. Bring them into the organization. In the regiments, we call this the boa constrictor method of socialization, right? You wrap your arm more and more and more tightly around men and women, bring them into the family, and 2, 3, 4 years later, you got 98% of the people that want to stay with your organization because they love the leadership, the culture, the environment, the atmosphere. Like, give them credit when things go well. Don't be one of those people who rushes off to the podium and takes the award for something that they have done. And when things go wrong, the worst thing you can do to inspire people is blame them. Right? There's a church in Vancouver who has an electronic signboard on the route from the airport downtown. And the sign there one day, I remember this years ago, and I've thought about it, always said, blame softly, praise loudly. If you do that, you inspire people. And 2 more points I would just, because I could go on with 100 points of how to inspire people. One, give them the equipment necessary to do the job. The equipment, the training, the environment, right? And whether that's a cell phone, a laptop, or a fighter jet, which we need, give them the equipment to do the job, right? And the last point I would make is, I call it my 95-5 rule. I had a 120-man squadron as a tank squadron commander in Germany during the Cold War. 120 young men. Awesome squadron. We had the best fighting unit in NATO. And one day I realized that things weren't going as well as they were, and it was because I, as the leader, was spending 95% of my time looking after 3 soldiers in that squadron who were a deadweight, who were in trouble, either disciplinary problems, administrative problems, and they were dragging down 117 awesome Canadians who just wanted to go out and, can I say this, just wanted to go out and kill commies for Christ. it was that kind of thing, right? This is the Cold War scenario. And I made sure I changed my focal points to get it right. When you focus on people who are dragging the organization down, usually there are very few. When you focus on them, you are abandoning the awesome, incredible people who are making you successful, right? And every leader gets down that path, and sometimes you got to wake up and just make sure of it. And you know something? Those people who come in the organization, those soul-sucking, energy-sucking, destroying, you know them. You can identify them in a heartbeat. Fire their ass out the door as quickly as you possibly can. They will destroy your organization. Spend 95% of your time as a leader, or more, on the 95% of the people who make the organization successful. And then handle the remaining less than 5%, 95.5 just swings nicely. It's less than 5% all the time. Handle them appropriately, give them the chance to change their ways, and then make sure they depart the organization as quickly as they possibly can. 95.5. Spend your time as a leader leading and supporting the folks who make you and the organization successful.
That's great advice. I alluded to this in my introduction. Our relationship, the relationship of Canadians with the Canadian Armed Forces, with the military, has changed significantly over the course of the time that you've been serving in our country. If you go back 30 years, there wasn't the same level of affection and respect that I think there is today, and I think a big part of that was your leadership. Can you just talk about the relationship that we have with the Canadian Armed Forces and how it has changed and evolved, and how we've gotten to a point today where, and there are many, many veterans who are here today to whom we are extremely grateful, how we have had a bit of a resurgence in our connection to the Canadian Armed Forces and our respect for the men and women who serve.
Well, I think that the answer is actually really, really simple. And to resolve it is much, much more difficult. And the answer is the respect comes as soon as Canadians know their sons and daughters are doing these incredible things to protect them and to advance Canada's interest. And that's the part that we didn't do. We didn't show Canadians what those young, awesome men, I keep using that word awesome because I love it because it describes them. those awesome men and women in uniform and their families, what they did for us, for Canada, for Canadians, every single day of the year, whether that's at a fighter base, in Cold Lake, Alberta, or on a mission in Afghanistan, or a mission in Africa, or a mission anywhere else like Latvia right now. And once they get an opportunity to see those Canadians, their sons and daughters, and it always kind of, just puzzled me of why we weren't, prouder, had more pride in the Canadian forces, because that's our sons and daughters. One of my sons serves with the defense industry piece, but that's our sons and daughters as a nation and as families, and how could we not be proud of them? And so what we decided to do, and we had 3 things we were working at when I became the Chief of Defense Staff. That became our strategy to our vision. Number 1 was reconnect with Canadians. Let them know this is your armed forces, by the way. And right now it's atrocious. We've just gone through a decade of darkness. We've just gone through another decade of darkness, and we need to change that. This is your armed forces. Are you going to let this happen to you? We had to make it a fact that people had pride in wearing the uniform, and they could stand tall and be out there. And we had to equip, train, and prepare for war, because we had lost that piece too. And those were our 3 pieces, and it was all connected to soldiers, aviators, sailors, and their family members being part of our great population. I never went to do a single event, single appearance, single talk without taking a bunch of those kids with me. And kids, I'm talking, some of them in their 50s, for goodness sakes, with their family members, introducing them, hey, this young kid here on a ship helped bring down a drug runner ship with 23 tons of drugs on board. Can you imagine? Young Newfoundlander out of Fortune, Newfoundland. He never went anywhere out of Halifax and off that ship, and all of a sudden he's in the middle of Toronto, I think it was, where we brought him and his wife with him, stood him up in front of this crowd of about 500 people, and just explained what this young boy, our son, and his wife, our daughter, was doing for our country. I think when you do that, the change is dramatic. And here's my worry. We've disappeared again in the Canadian Forces, right? We've disappeared again. I've been to event after event after event, and the number of men and women there from the Canadian Forces and the number is very low, and the number of men and women from the Canadian Forces and in uniform is even lower still, and they've almost become invisible. That's a horrible thing to have occur. They need to be part of our society, need to be seen, and when they are, they're appreciated. And that happened here in Ottawa. You couldn't go anywhere. People would be tapping you on the back, buying you a Timmy's. And as a soldier, I like to drink about 14 gallons of Tim Hortons coffee a day, so that was always a big one.
Yeah, and the Army Run is another great opportunity for us to show our appreciation to the men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces.
And Mark, if I could just, I apologize, I just jumped all over you and interrupted here, but hey, I just got off a flight from Riyadh, so I don't even know what I'm doing, but there you go. I look at this and say, when those kids are out there, it is the greatest recruiting tool. In the Army Run you mentioned, you get 20 or 30,000 people out there all fired up. And which young man and woman wouldn't want to try to go out and do something exciting like the Armed Forces for 2 or 3 years? You don't have to do it all your life. You want to go out and do something, be challenged, jump out of an airplane, get to fire big guns, get to design stuff, build stuff, and then blow it up if you're an engineer, right? I mean, the excitement is incredible. And you get to learn how to lead. You get to learn how to be part of a team. You get to learn the importance of humor in tough situations. And you get to learn the importance of being credible as an individual, so people rely on you and you don't let them down. And then 2 or 3 years later, you finish that enrollment and come out, and it's an incredible, what an asset you are to the industry of Canada, to the economy of our country. And the Army Run here in Ottawa, I love to see it. And it's a great way of reconnecting here.
It's a great point. So I want to talk obviously about the situation we face in the world today, about what Canada needs to do, what Ottawa needs to do, what the National Capital Region needs to do. But just before we get to that, I wanted to talk about your role in an event that was very significant in our community, the ice storm. You played a leadership role at that time in responding to the ice storm in Eastern Canada. What are some of your memories from that experience?
Well, that was a long time ago. chaotic memories.
28 years now, I think.
Yeah, it was. I was in Petawawa. I was the brigade commander, and hey, somebody here, some folks here in the room may have been there with me, in fact, during that time frame, and we were all on sort of block Christmas and New Year's leave, and most of the brigade was literally scattered around the world. And the storm was on, and we were hearing reports about it, and 10 o'clock at night, I got a message from my commander down in Toronto saying, hey, we may need a couple hundred people down in Ottawa. And I was looking at that and thinking, we got this massive ice storm on. If we're going to need the Army, we're going to need a lot more than a couple hundred people. So I called in the operations officer, Bruce Penning, and the logistics guy, and my house, 11 o'clock at night, in the middle of that storm, and we're just chewing this through. And I said, you know something? We're going to recall the brigade. And we think now we're on Christmas, New Year's leave here, and we got a phone call from one guy in Singapore. Said, sir, I'm on my way back. So good. And we recalled the brigade. 2 hours later, we had our advance parties moving down. We RV'd at the, I think it was called the Corral Center then, but Canadian Tire Center. I went around with the police and the chief administrative officer here. We met right here in the town hall and got a look at the area and the region. We had battalions flow in from Petawawa to the hockey arena. I met the commanding officers here, gave them their orders. We gave separate locations to each battalion group. The 3rd Battalion group went across to Gatineau, as I recall. The RCD were on the east side of the city, and we put in liaison officers with every mayor and administrative officer, and instantly we had a communications network up and running, and we had troops, heavy equipment, and help. And I think the most, and we, by nightfall of that first day, we had 5,000 soldiers here in Ottawa. It was quite incredible when we moved in through those icy rains and that. But you know, the number one thing that they brought was psychological security. People were frightened. People were uncertain of what was happening. Older people in condos where the elevators were down, where power was off, etc. And we got an opportunity to do something. We were organized, structured, and we could flow our commanding officers and the RSMs and company commanders, and right down to those young soldiers who were doing all those things, were just awesome, incredible ambassadors for the Army. And we did our business and got our troops in here. And I will remember somebody said to me, General, we have a press conference every morning at 9 o'clock to keep the city up to date. They might be interested in speaking to the guy from the Army. Could you attend? And I attended, and of course, there were 100 questions. 100 of them were for the guy from the Army. So I said, hey, we're here. And then the minister was saying something. I was trying to make sure I wasn't going against what he was saying. You know, he said, oh, we're only going to have 900 troops in the area. And by then, I think we had 5,192 who flowed in. So we had to balance that a little bit. And then the problem came of how to get out of the area. Because what was happening is this. We flowed in, and we went out, for example, in Alexandria. We went into a schoolhouse. You know, it's still minus a great deal in winter, and we just right into a schoolhouse. We had 300 troops living in the gymnasium in the schoolhouse, and now things are improving. Electricity's coming back on. Loblaws 18-wheelers are coming in with generators and all that good stuff. And we know our time here is at an end, but the political structure really was reluctant to let us go. And so OC Transpo, if there's anybody here from OC Transpo, God bless you, because the bus drivers looked after us during that time frame. We had OC Transpo buses leaving here with 100 soldiers on it, driving to Petawawa, right? No permissions, no sort of direction whatsoever. They did what was needed to be done. And then we used the leverage of that. The principal would come in and say, hey, I'd love to reopen my school, but I can't because you've got 700 soldiers living there, and that became our way out the door. So it was an exciting time for our troops and ourselves, because we actually, I think, played a role to help Canadians who were frightened at that time, and we learned a lot of lessons, and it was a great exercise for us, quite honestly, and a whole bunch of things that we do for war fighting, the command and control, the movement, and all those kinds of things too.
Well, you helped a great deal. So let's talk about the world that we are living in today. And throughout your military career, you would have been preparing for times like these, even if the current circumstances never happened during the time that you were in leadership in the military. I'm sure you have lots of thoughts and reflections. and you don't seem to be very shy about your opinions. So I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about what's going on in the world today. We have, our relationship with our best friend and trading partner, the United States, is fractured. We're hearing daily threats from the U.S. president against Canada. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. There's tension. There's a feeling like that we're in a powder keg and the next spark could set something off. How do you think Canada should respond right now?
Well, Mark, and maybe I'm just going to bang on you, or beat on you for a nanosecond only here. One of the things we have to do as leaders is help Canadians get, again, that psychological security. Like, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through it, and we're going to come out better, and we're going to come out better on the other end more quickly if we do it together, not as individuals. And so fear-mongering in Canada is at an all-time high, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you this, and you're not going to like me for it. Turn fucking CBC off. I've never seen such a fear-mongering broadcasting organization in my entire life, right? Turn it off. Because if you're watching that and you're not balancing it with a bunch of other stuff, and I like some of the other things I would turn off also, but here's what, we'll get through this. We got to stop in Canada focusing on President Donald Trump. We got to focus on Canada, right? And every time he's made no secret about anything. He is so predictable as to be unbelievable. And so what we have to do in Canada is sort our own act out as a sovereign G7 proud nation that we are. Sort out our trade business, sort out our economy, sort out the military and the defense and security of the Arctic. We've been talking about those things for how many years, how many decades, right? 40 years, 50 years, we've been talking about doing more in the Arctic. We've not done it. We've been talking about rebuilding the armed forces. We're not done it. We've been talking about buying a fighter jet. 16 years, we've not done it. So look, let's sort out Canada. Let's sort out Canada. Let the Americans deal with their administration the way their great system will work. We're going to be here forever in this position on North America continent, right? They're going to be there forever, and guess what? We're going to have a relationship. And we may be angry, and we may be, volatile and easy to rile up. We're going to have a relationship. I'm all for diversifying trade, economy, defense and security relations, east and west. It's going to take 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And even then, we're still going to have a huge relationship in all of those areas with the United States of America. Look, the world is tumultuous. It is not going to get any less tumultuous in the immediate future. We're not going to have a peace in Ukraine. This is Rick Hillier saying this. I have been wrong before, actually twice. Once when I thought I was wrong and I was right, and the other time I was just plain wrong. And we're not going to have a peace in Ukraine. I don't think you can come up with an agreement that will satisfy Russia, satisfy Ukraine, satisfy the Europeans, and satisfy the United States of America. That war is brutal, and I've been there, and you just walk on a field, and your legs are covered in this white filament. And what that filament is the lines from the drones that fly attack, because they're the ones that can't be interfered with by electronic warfare. It's quite amazing. Fields covered in that. There's a 15 to 20 kilometer kill zone that runs along that front. Anything moves in that zone, it gets killed. There are lessons on the future of warfare coming out of Ukraine we haven't yet hoisted aboard. South China Sea, flashpoint, every day 6 nations, navies, and air forces all sort of play dare with each other. Frightening place more so than anywhere else. The Middle East, I just came out. I spent a lot of time talking with folks very intimately engaged in part 1 of the peace deal, as we all hear about, for Gaza. And my question to them was, what are the chances for the stage 2? And their response, and these are leaders engaged in it from a variety of nations every day, their response was, there is no part 1 peace deal. There's still fighting going on. There's still terrorists attacking every day. Still tunnels being found and blown up. Weapons caches found. That's their opinion. So, are we going to see a settlement in the Middle East, in Gaza, in the short term? Not till Iran changes, and Iran is going to change. I wanted to get out of Riyadh before the Americans struck, because I figured all the airlines would immediately shut down. Again, Rick Hillier's prediction: the Americans are going to strike, along with the Israelis probably, but the Americans for certain. That's why they're moving now to Gerald Ford there, etc. They've got to a stage where, as the Israelis tell them, as the Saudis told them, If you don't take out the regime now, the regime will be stronger after that than ever, and therefore they will interfere more in Gaza, more in Syria and Lebanon, and more in Yemen than ever before. I believe the Americans will strike in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and it's going to be a regime change kind of strike. What that will do to a variety of things is interesting. Anybody who's ever sailed through the Straits of Hormuz, you see how tiny and narrow it is, where all those tankers that supply the east coast of Canada with all the fuel that we need to get through winters and that kind of stuff, they're all going to be at risk in moving. So if you ever think about an energy corridor across Canada, the pipeline across Canada, we should think about those kinds of things. Back here in Canada, can I say one thing about our government? I love Mark Carney's speech at Davos, right? Awesome. He laid it out there. There is a rupture. It's permanent. We're not going back. We were going that way for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, except that the Democrats in the administration didn't call it out as brutally as Donald Trump did. And so we have to figure and get our act together. We have, and the Prime Minister, and I had an opportunity to talk to him, to the Minister of Defense, we have to ensure that we do what is right for defense and security in Canada. Number one, we got to think security in a strategic sense. Who here thinks about, energy security for Canada? Who here thinks about pharmaceutical security for Canada? You know, where 98% of our pharmaceuticals are made where? India, right? It wouldn't take much to interrupt that flow. I thought we had learned that lesson during the vaccine rollout. Clearly we had not, because we're not doing any, infrastructure security. We got to think in the broad strokes of security for that perspective here, and invest in the Canadian forces and invest in the cyber world. And the government is doing that. Prime Minister Carney has made it very clear. I talked to him about it. Minister of Defense David McGuinty, a member from here, obviously has done that. Stephen Fuhr, who is doing procurement, is trying to do that. Doug Guzman, I had a chance to talk with, is going to drive things forward. They've laid out the policy, said what we're going to do, very clear about it, allocated the money. The Canadian forces are right here, and they desperately need all that money to get things going. And in between, nothing is moving. Nothing is moving. The official opposition to the Government of Canada right now is the Public Service of Canada, the bureaucracy of the Public Service of Canada. And things are jammed, and unless this government moves it through that bureaucracy, and by changing the bureaucracy, that government is not going to be able to do what it said it wants to do. We've got a real challenge here. Look at what the Coast Guard has done in the United States. They said it got a 30, 60, 90 day. 30 days, we'll go through a proposal. We'll give you a yes or no. 30 to 60 days, we'll negotiate the contract with it. And 60 to 90 days, we'll sign that contract and start production. Can you imagine doing that? Here in Canada, for decades, we have had a major Crown project. And a major Crown, many of you are in the defense acquisition procurement. A major Crown project means you put a level of scrutiny and control on it and reserves of fund on it that's huge because it's bigger, right? We've had $100 million be the line for a major Crown project for decades. That $100 million now is nothing. We should change that immediately to $1 billion, right? We should give the Minister of Defense spending authority up to $250 million. I mean, my goodness, what are we trying to do? We should give the Chief of Defense Staff and the Army, Navy, Air Force, Special Forces commanders spending authorities to $25 million. We trust them to commit us to life or death situations, to bring on into service ships that cost $60 billion and aircraft that are in the billions. Surely to goodness, with appropriate, obviously, controls, we can trust them to spend for their mission up to those levels. If we did that, we move it along. Last thing I would say, when you allocate a major Crown as $1 billion up, do what the Prime Minister said he would do for national projects. Put a 2-year clock on it. If we can do that for a major national project, why can't we do it for a major Crown project to procure something for the Army, Navy, Air Force? And last one, I can say, listen, we've been talking about the Army, the Navy, with our ships and our submarines. Awesome, we need that. We've been talking about the Air Force with fighters and helicopters and a variety of other things, and we need that and we need more. We have not been talking about the Army. The Army is broken. The Army is broken. We need to fix the Army. We need to say to General Dynamics Land System, we want 2,000 of your LAV-7 vehicles. We want the first one next week. We want the last one about 2 years from now. They've got 20,000 people with all their suppliers who are going to come together to make that happen for us. We need to triple, in my view, the size of the Army. You take the active duty Army right now, take them to Lansdowne Park, and you'll still have about 1/3 of Lansdowne Park empty when the entire Army of Canada active duty sits there. We need to triple the size of the Army. We need air defense. We need uncrewed aerial vehicles and counter-aerial vehicles. And our brigade in Latvia is ill-prepared, I think, for that kind of warfare here. We need to focus on the Army a lot. I'll stop, Mark. My apologies. Well, I'm not really sorry. You invited me here.
You kind of answered my next 3 questions there all at once, so that's good. I do want to ask you about the opportunity for Ottawa-Gatineau. And you're connected to some companies in this area. You know the presence of hundreds of companies in the defense technology space. You know that we are positioning ourselves as Canada's Defence Innovation Hub. What is the opportunity for Ottawa-Gatineau? What advice do you have for us on how to execute on that?
The advice is easy. Be a champion. For those, you said 300 companies from the defense and security industry. Be a champion for those companies. We've gone through decades where industry was bad and government wouldn't let anybody talk to them, right? And I see here David Luxon is over there, the executive chair of the board at DefSec. Sean Olmuth is here. Francois Junot right there is the CEO of Multivesco. Men and women with incredible vision of what they can do, opportunity to do it, articulated clearly what they can do to meet the need that has been described out there, and again, cannot move anywhere through the cumbersome bureaucracy that kills it right now. So number one is be a champion. Like take those companies and let's get our members of parliament and our cabinet ministers like Minister McGuinty and the Prime Minister, who is from right around here, get them focused on those companies. 2, the companies, almost all of the companies that we have here have really gotten into dual-use multi-domain. And so it is so incredible if you can have a land use that could bring in various parts of the Canadian Forces, public safety, police forces, special forces, cyber command, quantum computing, University of Ottawa be engaged and be a part of that, and then bring in other nations. You could create inside of the Ottawa region here international centers of excellence in warfare and preparing people to ensure that we remain secure and safe here. And so be a champion and then look as broadly to the left and right as possible, because everything these days is dual-use, multi-domain. You can't do any single thing by itself. That doesn't work as well. So multi-domain, that's what I would say right here. I think the opportunity is immense. I mean, God, we got National Defence Headquarters here. We got the Government of Canada here who allocate all that money, which is what you want, obviously. We got some incredible companies here, and I only listed 2. There are dozens and dozens of them here. And you've got some of the most skilled employees and workers available, and the greatest educational institutions here, with the University of Ottawa is doing some awesome work in the quantum engineering and quantum computing fields, just to name one of them. And so I put in a plug, University of Ottawa's Leadership in Defense. Is that what it's called, David? Leadership in Defense course, which they just started. Great way to get re-engaged in certain things.
Amazing. We're out of time.
Oh, no.
This is great, though.
I was just warming up here, actually.
Yeah. We also have great leadership in our community, and we're grateful that you have agreed to be part of our task force as the Honourary Chair, so thank you for that. There's lots of things you've done in your career we didn't even touch on today, but you've been just such an incredible force for good in our country, and you have served our country with the highest distinction. Thank you so much for everything you've done for Canada. Thank you for being a good citizen of Ottawa as well, and proud citizen of Ottawa.
I am.
And thank you for joining us today. We've created a coin for Ottawa as Canada's Defence Innovation Hub. We've created a challenge coin, so I'm going to present the first one of these to you, General Hillier. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Truly.
This is great.
Thank you, man. Hey, thank you, folks.
Thank you again, General Hillier.